Hello, this video is all about Act 1, Scene 2 from Shakespeare's enchanting tragedy, Macbeth. Now the scene itself is all about Macbeth, even if the man himself doesn't actually appear. But thanks to the praise piled upon him by the captain in his speech, we get a good idea of Macbeth's character. Very briefly then, we're going to look at how the captain's speech relates to the dramatic genre of tragedy. Because in the structure of a tragedy, you see a good or noble man brought low, ruined, destroyed, call it what you will, by a fatal flaw in his nature. And of course, in Macbeth's case, that flaw is ambition. Now, direct your attention to the colourful gentleman on the right of the screen. Because if a play's main protagonist or main character is some dead-eyed scumbag from the start, then you are not looking at a tragedy, folks. If the play has some scummy guy who's always been a scummer, doing scummy things and eventually getting beaten up or arrested or killed or whatever, that is not a tragedy. That's just, I don't know, another day on planet Earth. For a play to be perceived as a tragedy then, we need to see the main character perceived as a good and noble man at the start. That is what makes the downfall of the guy all the more tragic at the end. So the function of the captain's speech is to elevate Macbeth's status in the audience's eyes, even before Macbeth himself has appeared on stage. Basically, it tells us what a heck of a guy Macbeth is. He's a noble warrior and a loyal servant to King Duncan. If a tragedy requires a high status protagonist or hero at the beginning of a play, then the captain has given us an account of one. However, in the spirit of securing the highest marks, A star or level 8 or 9 or whatever the devil are calling it this week, we can also pick out some evidence suggesting flaws or faults in Macbeth's nature. It's almost as if Shakespeare is foreshadowing Macbeth's downfall from the off. Yes, the main thrust of the captain's account is that Macbeth is a great guy, but we're going to winkle out allusions to Macbeth's darker side. First though, let's roll out a very brief summary of the scene. The king's forces, Duncan's forces, are going toe-to-toe with the Norwegians, and the captain relates stories of Macbeth's prowess on the battlefield, his performance. Luck seems to ping-pong or seesaw between the Norwegian and the Scottish forces, and it's looking very dark for the Scots at one point. However, in no small part due to Macbeth's fearless fighting, Scotland prevails and wins the battle. Now, I'm pretty sure you won't be so shocked you'll need to lie down when you hear that Shakespeare employs some beautiful language techniques in order to present this scene. We see similes, we see metaphors, we see powerful adjectives used to craft and shape this account of the captains. And one of my favourites comes at the start of the captain's narrative. He talks about the two warring sides being like two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. This is a wonderful simile relating how both sides seem to be suffering. Nobody is winning this fight. Both sides appear to be drowning, suffering heavy casualties. There is no indication that either the Norwegians or the Scottish are displaying any signs of victory. Juxtaposes. There's a natty word to get the examiner's heart fluttering, providing you're using it accurately, of course. It basically means to link two things together, or to present two things side by side. Now, when Shakespeare presents the traitor MacDonald in this scene, he juxtaposes disloyalty to the king with evil. And he tosses out adjectives such as damned, which highlights the immorality of challenging King Duncan, and by extension that divine right of kings that saw the monarch as God's appointed figurehead on earth. Other negative words used to present MacDonald, we see him described as merciless and as a rebel, and there's another lovely line. It says it talks about the villainies that do swarm upon him, which of course has connotations of bees or wasps, makes him sound very dangerous, very aggressive. We spoke earlier of how a tragedy requires a noble, high status protagonist at the beginning, and the captain trowels praise on Macbeth to establish his noble credentials. He refers to him as Valor's minion, so a little assistant of bravery, that's what Valor is. It talks about his brandished steel that smoked with bloody execution. That conjures up for me a very Hollywood image of some dude holding a sword that's kind of smoking because he's butchered so many bad guys, his sword is overheating. The captain goes on to describe Macbeth as being like an eagle and a lion. I think the line is, somebody asks, was Macbeth not scared? And the captain says, oh yeah, he was about as scared as an eagle is of a sparrow and a lion is of a hare. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Now, it's significant that we're seeing here Macbeth linked with what I call apex predators. Lions, eagles, great white sharks, they're at the top of their respective food chains. They eat everything, nothing eats them. So it presents Macbeth as this fierce, unbeatable presence on the battlefield. One of the lads listening to the captain's account, I think he's called Ross, he pipes up and calls Macbeth Bellona's bridegroom. Now, Bellona was the goddess of war. So again, we're seeing imagery here that presents Macbeth as this noble, charismatic warrior. The captain employs simile. He refers to Macbeth as cannons overcharged, making the man sound like a lethal weapon. I mean, Macbeth here clearly depicted as this brutally efficient killer machine. So yeah, Act 1, Scene 2, laying on bumper-sized helpings of positive PR for our protagonist Macbeth. The world and his blood-splattered best buddy seems to think Macbeth is a pretty swell guy. And yet, you read this passage carefully, you're going to discern some jarring notes, some subtle signs which suggest a darker side to Macbeth's nature. Because there's a brutality, a sadistic streak to Macbeth that emerges in the captain's account. I mean, he's not content to just simply kill the traitor MacDonald when he's faced with him. No. Macbeth makes sure he disembowels him. You know, he guts the man like a fish, takes his bowels out from the nave to the chaps. Then, just for good measure, he lops off his head and jams it on a stake, as you do. And this sadistic streak, this bloodlust, this deriving joy and pleasure from inflicting pain, may go some way to explain why Macbeth can commit a crime as horrific as regicide. If you like, it lays the groundwork. It gives us a plausible explanation for why a noble warrior, a loyal servant Macbeth, can go on to stick a knife in his king. The captain describes how Macbeth appeared to bathe in reeking wounds, almost as if Macbeth luxuriates in bloodletting, in butchery. There's that other image, it says, well, maybe Macbeth was trying to memorise another Golgotha, and Golgotha was the scene of Christ's crucifixion. Clearly here we're seeing a sense of a man blissfully contented being earlobe deep in blood. Hey, we made it. Conclusions. Let's round up and get done. Act 1, Scene 2, the captain's speech, promotes Macbeth as a noble character of high status, and this is necessary to make his later downfall be seen as truly tragic, truly a tragedy. The captain's account of the battle against Norwegian forces depicts Macbeth as this fearless, tireless warrior who greatly contributes to Scotland's victory. And Shakespeare, of course, rolls out similes, adjectives and metaphors that paint not only a vivid scene of the war, but help present Macbeth in that very positive way. However, it is possible to discern indications of Macbeth's darker side in the captain's dialogue. Macbeth can appear as a savage, sadistic fighter, and maybe these are qualities that explain the horrific murders he commits or commissions later in the play, including the regicide of Duncan. So there is rich dramatic irony when at the end of this scene Duncan declares, "No more shall the Thane of Cawdor deceive our bosom interest," because of course Macbeth will go on to be the Thane of Cawdor and to commit these treacherous deeds. And there we have it, folks. The captain's speech, Act 1, Scene 2, done and dusted.